Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity to be here and study your word. Help us to read and understand and apply what we learned today. We ask this in your name. Amen. Now, we saw that movie part last time.
Right.
Why did they make the golden calf?
Well, they thought that that was their. I don't understand why they did that, because they thought it was like God or something. But they knew that that was.
Well, yeah, and the other part of it was, where was Moses all this time?
He was up there, and they were mad when he had to come down and talk to them and stuff like that. Communication is important.
So, yeah, that's basically it. They assume that, it's a barren mountain, so how could he possibly live? So, basically, they put together this golden calf idea. Who made the thing?
That overseer guy and all the people. No, Aaron.
Aaron did. Yeah, you remember, this is the guy that's been nominated for the head of the priesthood in the earlier chapter.
Oh, he's going to get zapped.
Yeah, so anyway, you remember in the movie, he's got that thing in his hand, and as soon as Moses looks at him, he kind of just drops it and looks up in the sky. The point of the matter is, that's what they say happened. Remember the next thing, what happened when he threw the tablets down according to the movie? Yeah, there was thunder and stuff, and then there was this big chasm that opened up, people fell in it.
Oh yeah, everybody was like falling down.
Yeah.
And getting killed.
Well, let's find out what really happened. And when you find out what really happened, you'll understand why they could not put it in the movie. So I need someone to, which one of you is going to do?
The first one.
The first one.
Okay, so
7 to 18.
Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go down, because your people whom you brought up out of Egypt have become corrupt. They have been quick to turn away from what I commanded them, and have made themselves an idol cast in the shape of a calf. They have bowed down to it and sacrificed to it, and have said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you out of Egypt. I have seen these people," the Lord said to Moses, "and they are a stiff-necked people. Now leave me alone, so that my anger may burn against them, and then I will destroy them. Then I will make you into a great nation." But Moses sought the favor of the Lord his God. "O Lord," he said, "why should your anger burn against your people, whom you brought out of Egypt with great power and mighty hand? Why would the Egyptians say, It was with evil intent that you brought them out, to kill them in the mountains, and to wipe them off the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce anger, relent, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, to whom you swore by your own self. I will make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give your descendants all this land I promised them, and it will be their inheritance forever." Then the Lord relented and did not bring on his people the disaster he had threatened. Moses turned and went down the mountain with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands. They were inscribed on both sides, front and back. The tablets were the work of God. The writing was the writing of God, engraved on the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people shouting, he said to Moses, "There is the sound of war in the camp." Moses replied, "It is not the sound of victory, it is not the sound of defeat, it is the sound of singing that I hear."
So, Moses has already intervened on his people's behalf. So he's begging right now. So notice it says, then God relented and did not bring.
Yeah, but in the movie they did all that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm getting to. No one knows what
Really happened.
what God was really intending to do. It does say he was going to destroy them and make him a great nation. Well, if he destroys everybody, how's that going to work? So there's been a lot of discussion about this. But in any event, Moses intervenes for his people and gets them a reprieve.
Now, who really wrote this?
That's a good question. You see,
Because they didn't write stuff then, right? You said.
right, it was all oral. And now, the word is that it was written down sometime during when the people were exiled in Babylon. But according to the movie, the last scene, which we're not going to see, Moses gives the first 5 books to his wife, and says, "I can't go into the promised land. You take these with you." Now, That's probably not right either. The point of the matter is that
So supposedly Moses wrote all this?
yeah, that's right. According to tradition, Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Old Testament. According to tradition. Now, it's more likely an oral translation that was passed from generation to generation or somebody wrote it down. That's my guess. But then again, I'm not an Old Testament scholar. And that would be a good question for me to ask Matt Key. I would ask him. Now, since you're the other person,
I love it.
would you read 19 to 27?
When Moses approached the camp and saw the captain dancing, his anger burned him as he threw his tablets out of his hands, breaking them into pieces at the foot of the mountain. And he took the calf they had made and burned it in the fire. Then he ground it to powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it.
Stop, think about that. That wasn't in the film, was it?
No.
Okay, we'll continue.
He said to Aaron, "What did these people do to you, that you led them into such great sin?" "Do not be angry, my lord," Aaron answered. "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said to me, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us out of Egypt, we don't know what has happened to him." So I told him, "Whoever has the gold jewelry, take it off." And they gave to me the gold, and I threw it in the fire. And out of this came the calf. Moses saw the people were running wild and that Aaron had let them go out of control. So he became a laughing stock in their enemies. So he stood at the entrance of the camp and said, "Whoever is this little one, come to me." And all Levites realized reality.
So the Levites, remember in the movie, he was standing there and a few people went up on the mountain with him, and then the rest of them were there, and then he threw the tablets down, and then the chasm, and all these people disappeared. Well, that isn't quite square with what really happened. And I'm going to read the next section. Moses saw that you already read that. "Whoever is for the Lord, come to me," and all the Levites rallied to him. Now the Levites, if you recall, were they aren't the priests yet, but they were an order that was, maintainer of the law, and Moses and Aaron were Levites. Then he said to them, "This is what the Lord of God of Israel says. Each man strap a sword to his side, go back and forth through the camp from one end to the other, each killing his brother, a friend, and a neighbor." The Levites did as Moses commanded, and that day 3,000 of people died. Then Moses said, You have been set apart to the Lord today, for you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day. So, that's what really happened. There was no chasm or lightning or anything. Maybe there was, but, So the Levites did the dirty work.
How did they decide which people to kill? They just killed people.
Well, according to this, he
Brother,
said,
friend, neighbor.
each killing his brother and friend and neighbor. So I guess they get to decide which friend and which neighbor.
So you don't want to be a brother, a friend, or a neighbor.
Left.
So going further, this is what God decides after this. The next day Moses said to the people, "You have committed a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses went back to the Lord and said, "Oh, what a great sin these people have committed. They have made themselves gods of gold. But now please forgive their sin. But if not, then blot me out of the book you have written." The Lord replied to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Now go, lead the people to the place I spoke of, and my angel will go before you. However, when the time comes for me to punish, I will punish them for their sin. And the Lord struck the people with a plague because of what they did from the calf that Aaron had made.
They did another plague.
Yeah, so there was another plague on these people because they sinned, you see. Isn't that interesting? God says, I'm going to punish them some point. I'm not sure when. And then the plague shows up. So now the issue here is that all of these rules had just been given to them. We're talking probably a month, and they broke them all. And the fact of the matter is, if it hadn't been for Noah, they probably would have wiped them all out. Because remember, when Noah hit dry land, he says, "I will never destroy you by water again."
Yeah, but there's people that believe that at the end, that there's going to be some kind of terrible war.
Yeah. But the point of the matter is, that's why most people think that the Old Testament God is a different God than the New
Well,
Testament.
that's what I was thinking too, though. This guy is like a real vengeful, mean, angry. And in the New Testament, he's really nice, gentle, forgiving kind of thing.
Now,
But again, it's because maybe that's the way these people think.
right, exactly. Remember, there's somebody's writing this down.
Right, so that's what these people think.
And so they've been at Mount Sinai now for, I don't know how long. Those trips up to the mountain, there were really 3 or 4 of them. Moses up there, said for 40 days of each one.
And you said that means just a long time.
A long time. So they might have been there for weeks, on end. And at the base of this mountain, and all this smoke and flame and all these crazy things have happened to them as far as they're concerned. So now God has to figure out, after all of this, after I gave them all the rules, they broke them anyhow, what do I do with them? So he decides in chapter 33 to do this. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Leave this place, you and the people you brought out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised on the oath of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites, Amorites, Hittites, and Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey. But I will not go with you because you are a stiff-necked people, and I might destroy you on the way." Does he have faith in these people? It doesn't seem so, does it? So, I don't know how many thousands of them are left. But remember, there were 600,000 when they started this thing. Yeah, just 3,000, and there's probably a few have died along the way, but still. And it goes on to say, when the people heard these distressing words, they began to mourn, and no one put on any ornaments. And the Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites, you are a stiff-necked people. If I were to go with you even for a moment, I might destroy you. Now take off your ornaments, so I will decide what to do with you." So the Israelites stripped off their ornaments at Mount Horeb. There's another translation for the word ornaments. Jewelry. Supposedly, they never wore jewelry again.
How did the Jewish people wear jewelry now?
That's a good question.
The ones I see in the library, though, but they're, what do they call it?
Orthodox.
They're Orthodox.
So that's an interesting point.
They're very plain. They're almost like Amish people, they're
Yeah.
real
Yeah,
dark.
I don't know. Remember back when young people years ago, I had a neighbor who was Jewish and they were Orthodox Christian.
They were what?
They were Orthodox Jew.
Okay.
And she was.
Yeah, I don't think, the ones I've seen at the library, they don't even talk to you, but, you know, they're very plain dressed.
Yeah.
Very plain dressed. I always have lots of children.
Okay.
But maybe that's part of their deal. Amish people don't wear jewelry either.
Yeah.
So, now, I'm not going to read the next part because that has to do with the, remember we read about what it was going to take to build the tent, to put the Ark of the Covenant in, all the wood and all that. Now, he's given the rules as to who gets to go in there and who doesn't, and so on and so forth. Now, in verse 15, and Moses said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? So Moses is going for the celebrated vote of confidence.
Why doesn't he get to go?
God is talking, he's talking about God not going. And the Lord said to Moses, I will do the very thing you have asked because I am pleased with you. I know you by name. Then Moses said, now show me your glory. The Lord said, I will cause all my goodness to pass in front of you, and I will proclaim my name, the Lord, in your presence. I will have mercy on whom I will have mercy, and I will have compassion on whom I will have compassion. But he said, you cannot see my face, for no one may see my face and live. Again, there are Jewish sects that don't even pronounce, say the word, spell the word's name.
What did they call it?
It's like Y asterisk 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 H. Not Yahweh. And so there's asterisk then, or where the Lord's name would be the first letter in a bunch of asterisks.
Is that Orthodox or is that just?
That's started out pretty much everybody, and I'm not so sure that that it's that way because you got Jews for Jesus.
Yeah, there's that guy on TV. You ever seen that rabbi guy?
So
I liked him in the beginning, but he's got to go too over the top.
there said the Lord, there is a place near me where you may stand on a rock. When my glory passes by, I will put you on a cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will remove my hand and you will see my back, but my face must not be seen. So it looks like Moses is going to take another trip. All right? So would somebody like, which one of you would like to read chapter 34, verses 1 to 10? Verse 1 to 9.
The Lord said to Moses, choose about 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I will write on them the words that are on the first tablets which you wrote. Be ready in the morning and then come up on Mount Sinai. Present yourself to me there on top of the mountain. No one is to come with you or be seen anywhere on the mountain, not even the flocks and herds may graze in front of the mountain. So Moses chose about 2 stone tablets like the first ones, went up to Mount Sinai early in the morning as the Lord had commanded him, and carried the 2 stone tablets in his hand. Then the Lord came down on the cloud, stood there with him, and proclaimed his name, the Lord. And he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. And he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation. Moses bowed to the ground at once and worshipped. O Lord, if I had found favor in your eyes, he said, then let the Lord go with us. Although this is a stiff-necked people, forgive our wickedness and our sin, and take us to your inheritance.
This is a very important passage, especially when it says that he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sins of the fathers to the 3rd and 4th generation. in Jesus' day, that is why it was believed that people ended up seriously ill.
Because of the past, people in the past.
Right. The man who was blind, the people believed that it had to be something that somebody did in his family that caused him to be blind.
There's people that do that now.
So basically, if you read the New Testament, there's going to be references in there. It's going to say, well, it has nothing to do with the sins of that person's family. And this is where it comes from. So they believed that any type of malady that would happen to you, even an accident, was because of something someone did before you that you had no control over. So, again, one of the reasons Jesus came was maybe to straighten out some of the shall we say, impressions that people got from the law of Moses. And notice what it also says. It says, and he passed in front of Moses, proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands, forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin.
I think he was slow to anger.
Well, he's doing the talking. Okay? So basically, this is so there's a lot of confusion because many pastors today point to that passage and say he's slow to anger and abounding in love and faith, maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness. That's what Jesus said he was. Okay. Now, there's also other people who believe that, he just ordered, he just allowed 3,000 people to be killed for being sinners. So you have to take this in its full context. And as you said, you have to take it based on what was going on at the time. Back at that time, the easiest way to solve a problem is kill the firstborn. That'll take care of it. Because the firstborn was considered the one with all the power, the prestige.
Do you think they really did that though?
Kill the firstborn? Well, supposedly it was happening a lot. That's what Herod tried to do. So.
And it was always the male. So
right. Because like I say,
so we would be safe.
It's a male-dominated society. Remember, the firstborn gets.
It still is.
Pretty much everything.
It still is in the Jewish people.
Yeah, so I said pretty much the
women as second-class citizens.
The firstborn gets pretty much everything. In Jesus' day, they got 2/3 of everything. The second child got 1/3. Just before the French Revolution, the firstborn son of the French well-to-do family got the property. So what happened to the other sons?
They got whatever's left.
No, the second son became a priest.
Oh, that's what you see.
The third son went in the military. And then if they got down to 4th, 5th, and 6th, they'd worry about them later. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of people who study the Kennedys, and they say that's pretty much what happened in the Kennedy family. Remember, John wasn't supposed to be president. Joe was. And he was killed in a war in a very, very risky mission. So now John had to be and then Robert had to be the second in line.
They had nothing but that.
So remember, John gives the job to Robert. Well, you're already down to number 3. Who was taking care of Teddy? Nobody. Yeah, so eventually Teddy was the one who was left. But that's the way most families work.
Yeah, but see, all those people were really pretty good. The one they got out there now is a jerk.
Well, I'm saying, but that's the way they did things. the father, especially who was well-to-do, wanted to make sure that the business was in good hands.
But don't you think they would want to share it between all of the kids instead of just one of the kids?
You would think so, but that's not the way it worked for years. So, but basically, that's what's. So the point of the matter is that all of this is happening. There's all these other side events that's going on that made you wonder, like you said earlier. And
I'm just glad I know what's going on.
and also, I love the term stiff-necked people.
No, I wonder what that means.
They're stubborn, is what they are. You know, they're hard to change. You know, hard to convince. They're like mules. You know. So then it says, then the Lord said, I am making a covenant with you. Here's another one. Before all your people, I will do wonders never before done in any nation in all the world. The people you live among will see how awesome is the work of the Lord that I, the Lord, will do for you. Obey what I command you today. I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites.
Now, who are all those people?
They're the ones that are living in Canaan right now. Be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you are going, or there will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Remember, that's one of the 10 Commandments. He says that. You will have the name of no other gods before me, for I am a jealous God. He goes on from that point forward. So, here's all of the things that are going on. Now, he's telling them to get going. Then there's a whole set of rules after that. Yeah. So let's turn to verse 29 of chapter 34. This is an important part. It's Linda, would you please read 29 to the end of the chapter?
When Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, his face was radiant, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them. So Aaron and all the leaders of the community came back to him, and he spoke to them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near him, and he gave them all commands the Lord had given him on Mount Sinai. When Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. But whenever he entered the Lord's presence to speak with him, he removed the veil until he came out. And when he came out and told the Israelites what had been commanded, they saw his face was radiant. Then Moses would put the veil back over his face until he might speak the word.
Okay. Remember, the tent is up. And one of the things was earlier was every time Moses was going to speak to the Lord, he'd go in there. So he put a veil over his face because when they say radiant, it was probably like hard to even look at. It was so bright, glowing and whatnot. So he put a veil over his face. And that was supposed to convince the people that Moses was in fact their leader. I don't know about you, but I think it would convince me. Because remember, the first time he came down from the mountain, before he went back to Egypt, his face changed.
Well, I was going to say, the movie, his face changed.
Now, in the second time when we saw it, I said, take a look at his face. It was like brighter. And he looked like he had aged again.
Oh, yeah, it used to be the look at the turn. Look at that.
So then then he's going to talk about all the skilled people that are going to find and come to make what's inside that tent. Remember, there was a bunch of they were going to make a lampstand, they were going to make a table.
Yeah, all kinds of instructions.
There was going to be something to carry the Ark of the Covenant in, and so on and so forth. That was the Ark of the Covenant. Put the tablets in, and so on and so forth. So if you read this part, you'll see that there's all kinds of woven garments that are being made by experts.
You said they never did find it.
But they haven't found it since, no. Like, for example, in verse 20, it says, the whole Israelite community withdrew from Moses' presence, and everybody was willing, and whose heart moved him, came out and brought an offering to the Lord for the work on the tent of the meeting, for all its service and for its sacred garments. All who were willing, men and women alike, came and brought gold jewelry of all kinds, brooches, earrings, rings, and ornaments. Stop there for a second. What did they decide to do just 2 chapters before?
They put it all into that little cap.
Oh, they decided not to wear what?
They weren't going to wear jewelry.
So they weren't going to wear jewelry anymore. So now they're bringing the jewelry they're not going to wear. You see?
Still has some probably stuck in their pockets.
Like God, just not wearing it.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Everyone who had blue, purple, or scarlet yarn, or fine linen, or goat hair, ram skins dyed red, or hides, and sea cows brought them. Remember, that was part of it too. As I said before, gold and blue were very, very, not gold, purple and blue were very, very rare. And super covered. So the fact that anybody had it was amazing. Later on it says, and all the women who were willing and had skill spun the goat hair. The leaders brought onyx stones and other gems to be mounted on the ephod and the breastpiece. They also brought spices and olive oil. And then they brought in free will offerings and so on and so forth. So basically they're now acting out what he said 3 chapters before they were going to do. So this tent was really quite an elaborate thing. It had all of these special things inside. And they had to carry it from place to place once they started moving. So then it's called, then go to, verse 8 in chapter 36. All the skilled men among the workers made the tabernacle with 10 curtains of finely twisted linen and blue and purple scarlet yarn, with cherubim worked into them by skilled craftsmen. All the curtains were the same size, 28 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. They joined 5 of the curtains together and did the same with the other 5. Then they made loops of blue material along the edge, the end curtain in one set, and the same was done with the end curtain on the other set. They also made 50 loops on one curtain and 50 loop end curtain on the other set, the loops opposite each other. Then they made 50 gold clasps and used them to fasten the 2 sets of curtains together so the tabernacle was unique. We read earlier that God commanded that that's what they were going to do. So now they say, guess what? We have done what we were told. So the writer, I think, is trying to explain that maybe these people got the message and started to behave themselves the way they were supposed to behave. And then it got interesting. Would you read chapter 37, the verse 9 verses?
Chapter 37.
It's on page 98.
What's that guy's name?
Bezalel.
Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. He overlaid it with pure gold, both inside and out, and made a gold mold. He cast 4 gold rings for it, fastened them to a 4 feet, with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other. Then he made poles of acacia wood and overlaid them with gold. And he inserted the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark to carry. He made the atonement cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits long and 1.5 cubits wide. Then he made 2 cherubim out of hammered gold at the ends of the cover. He made 1 cherub on one end and the second cherub on the other. At the 2 ends he made them 1 piece with the cover. The cherubim had the wings spread upward, overshadowing the cover of them. The cherubim faced each other, looking toward the cover. Very specific.
Yes.
Very specific.
But again, these were the instructions it's like he repeated them word for word, that that's what we did, because that's what we were told to do. Part of the problem with the New Testament is a lot of it, what's in Exodus, is repeated in Deuteronomy. So you get to read it twice. But the point of the matter is, the next few chapters are how they set up the tent. So rather than waste our time with all of those, let's turn to chapter 40. Then the Lord said to Moses, set up the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, on the first day of the first month. Place the ark of the testimony in it, and shield the ark with the curtain. Bring the table and set out what belongs to it. Then bring in the lampstand and set up its lamps. Place the gold altar of incense in front of the ark of the testimony, and put the curtain in the entrance to the tabernacle. Place the burnt offering in front of the entrance to the tabernacle, the tent of meeting. Place the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water in it. They're going to wash their hands before they go inside. Set up the courtyard around it, and put the curtain in the entrance in front of the courtyard. Take an anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and everything in it. Now stop and think. You're using oil to do something, and there's a lampstand with a burning flame in it. That could be a little interesting. Consecrate it in all its furnishings, and it will be holy. Then anoint the altar of burnt offering and its utensils. Consecrate the altar, and it will be most holy. Anoint the basin and its stand, and consecrate them. Bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance to the tent of meeting, and wash them with water. Then dress Aaron in the sacred garments, anoint him and consecrate him, so he may serve me as priest. You understand that?
So even after what you did, they're still going to let him be approved.
You're exactly. Bring his sons and dress them in tunics. Anoint them just as you anointed their fathers, so they may serve me as priests. So this is where the priesthood of Aaron's line comes from. In Jesus' day, there were obviously thousands of people in Aaron's line, including John the Baptist's father. So, once you were in that line, that's what you did. And there were so many of them, they used to rotate. For example, taking care of the temple in Jerusalem. Each person used to get like a month or something. And they would do their duty, and then they would hand it to the next person. How they kept track of it, no.
But John the Baptist wasn't a priest, though.
No, that's the whole point. You caught on to something very, very important.
Because you just said they were supposed to be priests.
They are, but John the Baptist is declaring a new faith. So, but technically he would have been. So the tabernacle was set up on the first day of the month of the second year. When Moses set up the tabernacle, he put bases in place and erected the frames, inserted the crossbars, and set up the posts. And he spread the tent over the tabernacle and put the covering of the tent as the Lord had commanded. So then this is how they set this whole thing up. Now remember, if you're going to do all this work, every time you set this thing up, okay, and you're moving.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, well, so this must mean that they were going to camp at various places long enough to put the tent up. You don't just put a tent like that up for half a day and take it all down. So this was a very, very big deal. And you notice it has a courtyard, an entrance, and all these other things that were very important. And this is the place where God was living. And remember it said when Moses went inside, he would talk to God there. So then finally, Linda, we base verse 34 to the end of the book.
It's on page 103.
That's on page 103.
Then the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. Moses did not enter the tent meeting because the cloud started upon it, and the glory of the Lord filled the tabernacle. And all the tribes of the Israelites, when the cloud left the front of the tabernacle, they would set out. If the cloud did not lift, they would not set out until the day of the week. So the cloud of the Lord was over the tabernacle one day, and fire was in the cloud by night, in the sight of all the house of Israel were worshiping.
So in other words, see if this sounds right to you. They would set up the tent, and then if the cloud comes down, they stayed. If the cloud went up, they moved.
Sounds like a lot of work.
That gets it down. Thelma,
Thelma,
that big copy machine seems to think it's jammed. I pulled out every piece of paper I could find in it.
Oh, copy, it does everything, didn't it?
Okay, just letting you know.
Did you need to copy something?
Yeah, well, I already took care of it. I went to Plan B.
You can use the copy.
Yeah. So anyway, so notice it doesn't mention anything about any travel after this. The book ends there. Now, how long did they supposedly travel?
40 years.
Yeah, 40 years. It mentions in the movie, Moses says, you're going to travel until all of you are dead and your descendants will be around. We didn't exactly read that here. So now the question begins, what happens after? In fact, in the movie, the scene at least we left with, the next scene is him looking at the promised land and they're about to walk in. Now stop and think. If tradition is right and they travel until all the rest of them died, Moses is still alive. So, you know, there's a lot of, how shall I say it, a lot of scholarly work goes on here to try and piece together what's really going on.
You either, my opinion though, you have to either have faith and just believe it.
Exactly, that's exactly right.
Otherwise, you're not gonna, you can't, if you analyze it, it's not gonna,
Well, there are scholars who do, and the other problem is, again, it's language. When you translate something in from 3 or 4 languages, somehow things get a little confused. But the point of this whole thing is that Moses leads the people out of Egypt, and they become the people of Israel. And like I said, if you recall when we started, it mentioned that there were only 70 of them when they first went there. Joseph invited them. There were 600,000 of them when they left, which tells me they must have been there there's an awful lot of years between Joseph and Moses. Had to be, because, there had to be at least, 15, 20 generations, maybe more, to get that many people. Now, I know that, they were prolific in those days.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, but,
they did nothing else.
so these 600,000 would become, what's left of them when they get there, would become the nation of Israel. And remember, God said that they would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. So what I think we will do in the fall, the next step is the book of Joshua. Because Joshua takes over for Moses, because remember, he's not going to cross into the promised land. God told him he couldn't do it. So Joshua takes over, and there's all kinds of good, fun stories in there. There's stories about spies and baskets. And
Does he end up marrying that girl?
What's that?
Does he end up marrying that girl?
Yeah.
You feel like really like, did he end up marrying her?
No, I don't think, but then again, you never know.
They don't even tell me the end of the story.
Yeah. I don't know for sure, because, you know, we have to talk, you know, because, remember, when these books are written, if they're written from the male point of view, they don't mention the white version.
You noticed that, yeah.
But the whole point of the matter is that there's a lot of discussion today. Was there ever a Moses? And
But again, my opinion is, you either have to have faith. You can't analyze this, because if you do, most people's not going to believe it.
well, the reason they're asking the question has to do with who owns what is now Israel.
Okay.
I mean, if there was never a Moses, and this was just a made-up story, then they have no title to the land. You see? They claim that the Egyptians were pretty good at documenting everything, you know, those murals and everything they had. There's nothing that anybody can find that says that they let anybody go.
Oh, really?
Now, that could also be because they were so embarrassed they didn't record it.
Right.
There's also no reference to anybody named Joseph either. So in the movie, we didn't see that part, but they were carrying Joseph's body to the new land, and there was this whole group doing it, and they were singing, "Many colors has his coat." Now, did that really happen? The text doesn't mention it, but
So that's what they're saying, though, that if there really is no Moses, then that really isn't their land.
exactly.
Okay, I never realized that.
They're also trying to prove that David existed.
But how are you going to prove that?
Yeah,
You're dead.
well, yeah, I know, but like they say, well, these Egyptians documented everything else going all the way back to the beginning of time.
Yeah, but they might not have documented that, like you said, it was an embarrassment to them, or it wasn't, you know.
Exactly.
They weren't the Egyptians, so they decided not to. Remember, 20 people could see an accident, 20 different versions.
Exactly.
You know,
Now-
they always say that. Yeah.
That's why there was a real big to-do with the fact that some archaeologists, I think it was, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was recent, found something in a dig that might prove that David existed. You know, I mean, that's his argument. We'll see. But again, this is the title to the land. Remember, the holiest place of the Jewish people was the temple, and right around the corner from it was the holiest place in Jerusalem for the Muslims. They're within walking distance. So both of them laid claim to that city.
People got to stop the fight over everything.
Yeah. Well, remember this song about Billy? You know, the theme from Billy Jack.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
Yeah, every time somebody says that, that's what I think of when they say, they killed all the mountain people, then they got their just reward, then they moved the stone and looked beneath it. Peace on earth was all it said. And
Everybody fights all the time. Thank you, Elder.
so, but also Will Rogers said it best. He said, you might as well covet land, because last I looked, nobody's making it.